Commit, decide, and succeed. Those are three words that resonated with me since I was a little boy, and they don't come easy. I say that to say, I'm a young father, or at least I was. I was a father at the age of 17. I never cared about anything until that point, when I looked into my son's eyes. 2 years later, I threw a dart at a map. 1 year later, I was in Phoenix, Arizona, by chance. Some people say, but it was actually by the grace of God. I poured out my faith. I prayed day in and day out. How am I going to take care of this child? What am I going to do? I didn't have an example of a man to show me what it was meant to be a man. And I say that because I'm trying something different in my delivery. I'm learning to open up. I've always been very protective and closed individual. I lost my brother about 12 years ago, and that taught me to life is not to be taken for granted. And prior to that moment, I probably wouldn't have looked at any of you once or twice unless I had to for a grade. And it was that moment that led me to become a professional student. 6 months after my brother passed, I enrolled into South Mountain Community College. Initially, it was for the networking program. That was his passion, not mine, computers. Which was funny, I'm actually a natural at it. Straight A's 4.0, but it wasn't for me, it was for him. And then I thought, what the hell do I want to be when I grow up? It wasn't until 11 years later, which was 6 months ago, that I made the decision that I was going to take up communications. Why communications? Because I'm a jack of all trades. I'm a master of none. But the one thing I do consider, or at least I'm told that I do well, is communicate. And I believe that's subjective or objective, depending on who you speak with. Subjectively, I don't believe that. I believe that we can always improve in our communications. Although I could talk to the ghetto, but I could also talk to a CEO. But I still think I have a lot to learn. One interesting attribute about myself is that I'm very patient, calm, as well as excitable. I'm the type of person who could sit for hours and just think, meditate, but also I'm the same person who wants to jump out of a plane immediately. I know, balance, right? It's either end of the spectrum for me. Funny thing, I've always been attracted to the Latin culture. I grew up in a predominantly Black and Latino community. I learned to dance salsa, merengue, and bachata before I learned to dance hip hop. My family thought I was weird. But my grandmother and my mom, they never thought it to be weird. And I go back to what I said earlier. I never had an example of what it meant to be a man. When I was the age of 22, I met my father on his deathbed. Turned out he was a Dominican, but my Dominican roots were stronger than his because he was more into the African-American culture and me the Latin culture. And I was trying to put him on to Latin artists that he'd never heard of or knew about. And I was blessed with a strong roots in the sense of my mom and my grandmother. My grandmother always hinted to my Latin culture. She taught me how to cook Puerto Rican and Dominican dishes. And yes, your boy could cook, I'll throw down. My favorite quote is something that, it was a game my grandmother and I played. She would always say to me, who's gonna lose, who's gonna beat you? And I would tell her, Grandma, I will not lose, ever. Thank you. I'm Jermaine Reeves.